Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, let me to introduce myself. My name is TEDY. You can call me TEDY. I'm from Class C and Education Study Program 2021. So today I will make a video for final project of Introduction to Literature. And today I bring the title of novel is Moby Dick by Herman Melville in 19th century of American literature. Okay, biography. Herman Melville born in August 1, 1819 in New York City, New York State, United States. Died in September 28, 1891 in age 72. New York City, New York State, United States. Resting place in Woodlawn Cemetery, New York City. Occupation as a novelist, short story writer, teacher, sailor, lecturer, poet, and custom inspector. Literary movement is Romanticism. Next is history of personal life. Born to a New York City merchant in 1819, Melville strived for greatness that would not materialize during his lifetime. Melville's father, supported by 7 children importing French dry goods, but in 1813 he decided to try his luck in the furniture business in Albany. Within 2 years, the family went bankrupt and Herman's father died suddenly. Melville and his siblings left school to work in the family for that business, with Melville working several other jobs as well, filling teaching position at a local school, working on his uncle's farm, and being a clerk at a local bank. He also grew up hearing the true story of the whaling ship Essex, which was attacked by whale and sank when Melville was only 1 year old. Melville's fascination with the fearsome majesty of whales, the valors of whales, and their connection would be driving factor behind his writing. In 1839, at the age of 20, Melville made his first voyage across the Atlantic as a cabin boy on the merchant ship St. Louis Lawrence. After the expedition, and near exploring the West, Melville joined the crew of the whaling ship Acquisitions in January 1841. In October 1844, Melville returned to his mother's home to write. Due to his extensive experience as a mariner and whaler, his description of life at sea are both comprehensive and extremely accurate. Melville was also able to communicate the fear and terror of whaling, fact that would make his great work, Moby Dick, a literary prize for the whaling industry. In the midst of his early years as a successful writer, Melville married Elizabeth Shaw, daughter of the Massachusetts Chief Justice and a close family friend. Despite Melville's high expectation for Moby Dick, most literary critics ignored the novel. Many critics were impressed by the detailed account of the whaling voyage, but during Melville's lifetime, the book sold only 3,000 copies. Interest in nautical adventure went as Americans set their imagination on their potential in the waves. The other literary work of Herman Melville, beginning in the early 20th century, Melville work including Moby Dick, Bartleby the Scrivener, and Billy Budd, rose in critical esteem, and he was eventually considered to be one of the great American writers. Synopsis of Moby Dick. Herman Melville's epic novel Moby Dick did take place in the 19th century and followed the journey and the Pequod as a whaling ship captained by the monumental Captain Ahab. In the introduction, Ishmael, the narrator, decided to sign on the whaling ship. He traveled from Manhattan to New Bedford, where he met unlikely friend key quake and cannibal from a South Sea island who work a harpooner. They decide to ship out together and are able to secure position on the Pequod. By Captain Peleg and Captain Bildad, mysterious stranger named Elijah warned them about the capture of the Pequod in the rising action on Christmas Day. The Pequod set out from Nantucket loaded with supply for a 3-year voyage of wild hunting, while Ahab remains locked away in named. Elijah warned them about the captain of the Pequod in the rising action on Christmas Day. The Pequod set out from Nantucket loaded with supplies for a 3-year voyage of wild hunting, and while Ahab is locked away in his cabinet, Starbuck stopped and flashed the first, second, and third mates respectively keep things running smoothly. Eventually, Ahab emerged and Ishmael gets his first glimpse mysterious captain. Boarding man with one well-born piglet son, Ahab revealed his true mission, not to hunt sperm whales, but to hunt one of particular, and not to provide but revenge. Ahab is obsessed with his quest for vengeance against the white whale, Moby Dick. A sperm whale knows points for the loss of Ahab, like Captain Ahab nails a gold coin the mast of the ship and tells the men that whoever finds Moby Dick will earn its reward. All of the men, except Starbuck and Susie, as strictly agreed to his quest for vengeance. There are officially 3 mates on board, each whom will be in charge of one similar whaleboats, and each of these mates has an assigned harpoon. Pequod casts a go and they go. However, when a whale is actually sighted, a heads-on boat created by devil. Mysterious man named Faith Allah has revealed a hard pass prepared his own whaleboat with accommodation for Peleg. The Pequod sails one from to time, encountering sperm whales and killing them, and occasionally seeing other whaling ships each time. Another ship is made. Ahab asks for news of the white whale, and if the ship hasn't seen it, he has it on immediately, but if there is news, he listens intently along the way. Pequod becomes ill and has a coffin made for himself. He recovers and the coffin is inverted into a live boy. The tension between Ahab and Starbuck will confrontation between the two. Eventually, they meet a ship they recently had a run-in with Moby Dick and shortly Trevor. Ahab himself sighted the white whale. The hunting boats are lowered and dramatic case insists for 3 days. The crew of the Pequod and try to kill Moby Dick, who smashed 2 whaleboats and proves to be nearly impossible to kill in the climax of the novel. And on the third and final day of Moby Dick's sting, the Pequod and kills Ahab. In the following action, Ishmael survived by floating in Pequod coffins. In the resolution, the narrator is rescued and he alone live to tell the tale. The similarities of personal life Herman Melville with novel Moby Dick. In the novel, he is taught as a sailor, and Herman Melville is also a sailor. In his novel, it is told about whaling, and Herman Melville is a sailor who hunts whale in the ocean. Analysis character. Ishmael is a narrator, young human, sole survivor of the Pequod. Captain Ahab, protagonist and tragic hero. Moby Dick is a white sperm whale and white Captain Ahab's antagonist. Pequod is covered in tattoo, harpooner, close friend to Ishmael, pagan and cannibal. Starbuck, first mate, Quaker, and moral reservation about Ahab. Stab is the second mate, fatalist and jolly and relaxed. Flash is the third mate, simple man, drive to kill whales. Analysis story. Initial situation. Ismail goes on his first whaling voyage as a common sailor for 3 years' time aboard the Pequod. Conflict. Ismail is caught up in Captain Ahab's quest for revenge on the white whale Moby Dick. Complication. While Ahab searched for Moby Dick, the Pequod continued everyday whaling activity, hunting, butchering, and meeting other ships. Climax. Captain Ahab sighted Moby Dick. On one level, identifying this moment as the novel's climax is simple. Ahab spent nearly the entire novel looking for the white whale, and the story reached its peak when he finally found it. Suspense. The Pequod chased Moby Dick for 3 days. There's not much to explain on this one. Ahab sighted Moby Dick one morning, but the end of this final confrontation between them won't happen 72 hours. The suspense just keeps building as Moby Dick destroys one after another of the Pequod whaling boats. Every time it happens, we think the game is up, but Ahab just keeps going back. Denouement. Moby Dick destroyed the Pequod and everyone on board is killed. Conclusion. Everyone that is except Ismail, who escaped to tell the story. As we learn in the epilogue, Ismail is safe because he's able to catch hold of lifebuoy, the very same lifebuoy that was made out quite creepy. Message of Moby Dick. In short, the story teaches us that it's not good to be obsessed with something. Captain Ahab's obsession with the revenge on the wild Moby Dick led to the deaths of nearly all of his crew, as well the wreck of the Pequod. Reference. Okay, thank you so much for hearing me. Thank you so much for watching, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.